Since the beginning, it is known that Orcus sometimes allows his wand to fall into the hands of others, but don't think for a minute this is ever an accident. The 5th edition adventure Out of the Abyss, he is described as a bestial creature of corruption with a diseased, decaying look. He has the lower torso of a goat and a humanoid upper body with a corpulent belly swollen with rot. Great bat wings sprout from his shoulder, and his head is like the skull of a goat, the flesh nearly rotted off. O ghastly Orcus, the demon prince of undeath, he has been both a demon lord and a god. Orcus, along with Demogorgon, is one of the oldest demons in all of D&D, and has been given a great deal of fascinating backstory since he first appeared in the 1976 D&D supplement Eldritch Wizardry. Here is my original Orcus figurine from the 1980s, made by Grenadier Miniatures. He has been described as an elder evil and primordial. He is the Blood Lord, Lord of Specters, Master of Vampires, the Shadow that was, the goat-horned demon. If your campaign has an undead theme, it is likely, though not entirely necessary, that the bloated ram-horned Orcus is in some way involved, for he, or it, has near god-level power, the ruler of all undead. And before we truly discuss Orcus within our TTRPG hobby, I want to address his real-world mythology and origins. Depending on how you like to craft your games, the two don't need to be completely separate from one another, and our real-world Orcus mythology might simply be a different avatar or manifestation of the Orcus encountered in our fantasy games. On Earth, in ancient times, it is believed a temple dedicated to Orcus had existed on the Palatine Hill in Rome, the centermost of the 7 hills of Rome and the oldest part of the ancient city. The origins of Orcus are thought to have come from the Etruscan religion, which was heavily influenced by the mythology of ancient Greece. Some believe the name Orcus was transliterated from that of the Greek daemon Orcus, the personified curse inflicted on any person who swore a false oath. In ancient Roman mythology, Orcus was sometimes associated with and interchangeable with Pluto, Hades, and Despater, all gods of the underworld. It appears the name Orcus was given to the darker side of the underworld's ruler, the god who punished evil mortals in the afterlife. And just as it was for Hades, the name Orcus could be used to describe the underworld itself, not just its ruler. As Orcus was associated with death and the underworld, his name also came to be used for a variety of demons and underworld monsters. In Italian, Orco referred to a type of monster found in fairy tales that feasts on human flesh. And in France, the word ogre may have its origins in other variations of the name, where the French ogre and the Italian orco are basically the same type of monster. So the Orcus we know in D&D clearly owes its inspiration to monsters and a god of death from our real-world mythologies. In D&D, Orcus is typically depicted as having ram's horns, sometimes a ram's head, goat legs, and cloven hooves. Those characteristics are likely based on historical depictions of the Christian Lucifer, imagery which never appeared in the Christian Bible. The horned goat-legged renderings of Satan come from the first Christians associating their fallen angel Prince of Darkness with the ancient Greek god Pan, who at the time still had a sizable number of pagan worshippers. Now back to the Orcus of Dungeons & Dragons. I'm not going to spend much time on the variations and minutiae of game stats, though I may touch on some of his powers. I'll offer the most important sources and where you can find more information should you seek that. I'll also include links in the video description. In official lore, Orcus is a demon prince who rules over the 113th layer of the Abyss, a subplane of existence known as Thanatos. The name Thanatos was adopted from the god of death in Greek mythology. Orcus has more than one lair, and in my own homebrew campaign, Orcus has a fortress, perhaps a vacation home if you will, on the shadowy plain of Nemisatu. His lair there resembles a massive industrial age factory, with the lowliest of demonic slaves continually running filthy, oily, noisy machines that grind, smash, and pulverize abyssal coal to fuel his fortress. These machines belch hideous inky smoke, polluting the atmosphere with poison. When he travels, Orcus is chauffeured around by his Glabrezu butler in a filthy coal-powered stretch limousine that has the ability to travel through and across the lower planes. What I find most interesting about Orcus is that he once had another name, now lost to the ages, as an evil mortal necromancer, who upon death began a new life in the body of a putrid abyssal larva. These loathsome, bloated, human-sized maggots have pale yellow skin stretched over purplish pulsating veins. They possess a humanoid head vaguely resembling its former mortal incarnation, and they all have twisted facial features, which seem to be in a constant state of pain. The larvae, the absolute lowest form of demon, are nearly helpless except in swarms. With nothing more than his wickedness and evil desire, the creature ascended the ranks of demon. Through countless acts of evil treachery, he rose from larva to manes, manes to dretch, dretch to rudderkin, rudderkin to vrok, vrok to Graz'zt, Graz'zt to Nalfeshni, until eventually taking the form of a mighty and fearsome Balor. It was then, as a Balor, Orcus conquered Thanatos, the belly of death, and when he first seized the title Prince of the Undead, his physical appearance through every edition of D&D has retained some semblance of his former Balor incarnation. As for the mortal necromancer and his beginnings, there's no specific information, and this leaves a lot open to interpretation and perhaps an idea for some future adventure. Orcus typically wields his famed wand. The adventure Dead Gods describes the wand as a 3-foot-long iron scepter with a human skull set into one end, and the Book of Vile Darkness describes the wand as a black obsidian and iron rod, which is topped with the skull of a human hero slain by Orcus. The wand causes the annihilation of any creature touching it to their flesh, with the exception of creatures of status similar to or above that of Orcus. There is also a sword named the Orcus sword, attributed to him, which, if you'll excuse me, is difficult to say without hearing it in the voice of South Park's Eric Cartman. The Orcus sword was the weapon of Orcus when he was a Balor. It is kept in the negative energy plane in a well-guarded citadel. Perhaps most surprising is to learn that the demon lord of Undead has himself been slain before. He was killed by a drow goddess. Her name is Kiaransili, the Lady of the Dead, and she is the drow goddess of revenge and undeath. In Hellbound, The Blood War, published in 1996, we learn that Orcus had been slain by the demigoddess. This is then confirmed in On Hallowed Ground, published in 1996. I'll cover the details about her and Orcus in another video. What's important to know here is she successfully killed Orcus and took over his lair on the Abyss, Thanatos. But Orcus did not remain dead forever, and he was reborn. He now looked different, appearing as a thin, small, shadowy creature. He also then changed his name, calling himself Tenebris. Weaker than even a demi-power now, he could no longer form avatars, though he was still far stronger than any mortal. Filled with even more hate than before, he set out for revenge and to retake all that was rightfully his, and to bring about total destruction of the multiverse. Now that we've covered his most important game lore, let's just review his publication history. The most important entries, anyway. The Demon Lord of Undeath first appeared in the 1976 Eldritch Wizardry rules. This was the third supplement for the original D&D box set from 1974. The artifact known as the Wand of Orcus also first appears there as well. We'll talk about that more in a bit. On his single-page entry, Orcus is described as a grossly fat demon lord, some 15 feet tall. His huge body is covered with goatish hair, and his head is goat-like, although his horns are similar to those of a ram. His great legs are also goat-like, but his arms are human. Vast bat wings sprout from his back, and his long, snaky tail is tipped with a poisonous head. He is exceptionally intelligent. He has an 85% resistance to magic, and can be harmed only by weapons of +3 or greater enchantment. It then lists the many magic powers Orcus uses, some at will, some once per day. He also has the ability to summon demons and undead to assist him. It also discusses his Wand of Death, which it says is a rod of obsidian topped by a skull. Orcus then appears again in the first edition AD&D Monster Manual, published in December of 1977, which is very similar to his previous Eldritch Wizardry entry. Here he is described as probably one of the most powerful and strongest of all demons. In Dragon Magazine number 42 from October of 1980, we are introduced to Hakamuli, who is revealed to be one of Orcus's messengers. The creature is described as a pale, gaunt horse with hazy black eyes. Flies crawl over his mangy, sore-infested body, and he has the ability to drain the life force of any creature that catches its gaze. For the basic edition of D&D, Orcus appeared in the Immortal Rules box set from 1986. Here, Orcus was given new titles and names like the Goat, Master of the Dead, Lord of Darkness, or the Black Prince. Along with Demogorgon, Orcus was given rule over the Sphere of Entropy. There, he is described as a 15-foot tall, fat, goat-like humanoid. His two great curled ram's horns are his most recognizable feature. His arms are giant-sized, but very human. His legs are goat-like, with split hooves. It says if Orcus is willing to fight personally, he will make use of any convenient weapons, wielding one in each hand, while swinging his deadly poisonous barbed tail. His tail has the power to absorb its target's life force, healing Orcus in the process if the Demon Prince has sustained any damage. Orcus is included in the 4-part Bloodstone Pass campaign. H1 through H4, designed for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st edition. This series was created for use with the optional mass combat battle system rules supplement. Orcus ultimately makes an appearance in and is depicted on the cover of the final chapter, H4, The Throne of Bloodstone. That adventure was a 96-page book published in 1988. The inspiring cover image was created by longtime D&D artist Keith Parkinson, who sadly passed away in 2005 at the age of 42. Now get this. The adventure was designed for characters of levels 18 to 100. Yes, that's right, level 100. This represents the highest level range of any published D&D adventure and included a section on running games with 100th level characters. That was also the first ever publication to include the official Forgotten Realms logo. Now, as a side note, I really enjoyed those mass combat rules back in the day. In that truly epic adventure, the player characters assume the role of Bloodstone Pass's rulers. They must travel to the Abyss, confront Orcus, steal his legendary skull-tipped wand, and take it to the Seven Heavens to be destroyed. Along the way, the PCs might encounter the lair of a Tarrasque prison holding the demon lord of Minotaurs, which Orcus has imprisoned, a city of 10,000 zombies, a nest of 50 Chasme demons. By the way, Chasme in Arabic means plague or pestilence, and is properly pronounced Chasme. There is also a city entirely inhabited by liches, a mountain composed of every single skeleton ever destroyed in the prime material plane, and a city of approximately 100,000 demons. So, the next time somebody complains about the Tomb of Horrors being too difficult and they want a combat-oriented adventure, just maybe drop them in there to shut them up. I mean, just look at these maps. Yikes. Now, fortunately for the well-being of your own beloved characters, this adventure included 2 sets of pre-generated characters. The first group are mostly 19th level. The second set are legendary figures from Greek mythology: Perseus, Circe, Hermes, and Artemis, manifestation of which are considerably more powerful than their stats in previous releases such as Deities and Demigods and Legends and Lore. Orcus has also appeared recently in How Orcus Stole Christmas from Frog God Games. There's a 5th edition D&D version as well as a Swords and Wizardry compatible with other OSR fantasy RPGs. Both versions are suitable for 4 to 6 characters of 3rd to 5th level. No spoilers, but you'll be facing off against Orcus Claws and his cruel tide elves to rescue all the news down in Newville. Obviously, this adventure is lighthearted and intended to be an enjoyable holiday-themed romp, which owes its inspiration to Dr. Seuss's The Grinch. If you're going to be role-playing Orcus, remember he hates everything. Nothing gives him pleasure. From an analytical perspective, perhaps his extreme narcissism is a psychological defense mechanism to hide how much he hates himself. All he ever thinks about is power and expects others to admire him. He believes he is entitled to and should not have to work for his wants. He is not grateful for his followers. If anything, he is only angry they haven't done more and sooner. He will exploit anyone and any resources without hesitation. To call him arrogant would be an understatement. I wouldn't be surprised to discover he is followed around by an expendable cadre of lesser demon heralds who boast of his power. Orcus has nothing even remotely resembling empathy. He is lazy, cruel, and always angry about 100 different things at the same time. He has all of the worst traits and every isms you can imagine. He is all of the most extreme and worst parts of toxic masculinity personified. He's basically your crazy old racist uncle. As for combat, it took a drow goddess to kill him once, so really, unless there are some extremely unique circumstances, I don't see a player being able to claim him on their list of conquests. Long before you reach Orcus, you would need to make your way through his hordes of undead and demon minions. But first, just ask yourself, if Demogorgon and Graz'zt haven't been successful in killing Orcus, what chance do I have? But it isn't impossible. Orcus has his weaknesses. Literally everything about his personality is a giant collection of weaknesses that might be used against him. However, you must remember that you wouldn't be the first to attempt that. And if nothing else, he has a long memory and his thirst for revenge, so past plots would have not been forgotten. And then there's the demon's amulet. The holder of the amulet can control the demon, but for no more than 24 hours, at which time the amulet must be given back to the demon or be destroyed. Possession of Orcus's amulet might be used against him. But that 24 hours will go by quickly, and Orcus will enact his revenge on the being foolish enough to draw his attention. And his wand. Since the beginning, it is known that Orcus sometimes allows his wand, an incredibly powerful magical artifact, to fall into the hands of others. But don't think for a minute this is ever an accident. It can probably be assumed that the Abyssal Lord knows the whereabouts of the item at all times. So if it's out there in hands other than his own, it's because Orcus has a plan and is observing the proceedings. Because the entire topic of combat with demon lords, gods, and other vastly powerful entities deserves its own discussion, we'll hold off on that for now. Be sure to look for an upcoming video on that topic. Fortunately though, most heroes will never be unlucky enough to face Orcus directly, but his cults infect every world and every reality. In my campaign world, there's a vast human kingdom named Javalka that is ruled by necromancers who command armies of undead to defend against and conquer the country's many enemies. His most powerful priests share many of Orcus's personality traits and aspire to follow in his goat hoof tracks. You might recognize his cults by the unholy symbol of Orcus, which has been described as the horned head of a goat. Some of his notable followers include Elder Arantham, a Huakuba priest seeking to transform Orcus once again into a true god; Eldra, a Darrow savant who sought to build a device that could siphon souls to her master in the abyss; and the King of Ghouls once served Orcus before his lair was conquered by Yeenagu. It was Orcus who granted Vecna the power of lichdom. Even the legendary Acererak from Tomb of Horrors and Tomb of Annihilation was once a servant of Orcus, and the list goes on. There's so much left, but we're out of time, so I want to thank you for sticking around. I hope this video has been of some use to you. I'm Atten. I'm your host here at We Love TTRPGs, and if this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future uploads. I hope you liked the video, and let me know if you've ran any of the adventures I mentioned here. Maybe you have your own stories about Orcus, or you have some thoughts on further coverage of Orcus that you'd like to see. Let me know, and thanks for watching.